In the late 12th century, the Holy Land was a place of constant conflict. The Crusader states, established after the First Crusade, were under constant threat from powerful Muslim leaders. Among these leaders was Saladin, the Sultan of Egypt and Syria, a brilliant general and a unifying force for the Muslim world. Saladin had sworn to drive the Crusaders out of the Holy Land and reclaim Jerusalem for Islam. By 1177, Saladin's forces were stronger than ever. He had gathered an army of 26,000 soldiers, a massive force that seemed unstoppable. The Crusader states, on the other hand, were weak and divided. Their armies were small, and their leaders were often at odds with one another. It seemed only a matter of time before Saladin would achieve his goal. But then came a moment that would go down in history, a moment of courage, faith, and divine intervention. This is the story of the Battle of Montgisard, a miraculous victory led by a teenage king and the legendary Knights Templar. In the fall of 1177, Saladin began his march toward the Crusader kingdom. His target was the city of Ascalon, a key stronghold on the Mediterranean coast. If Ascalon fell, the path to Jerusalem would be wide open. The situation was dire, and the Crusaders knew they had to act quickly. At the helm of the Crusader forces was King Baldwin IV of Jerusalem. Baldwin was only 16 years old, but he was no ordinary teenager. He had been diagnosed with leprosy, a disease that was slowly destroying his body. Despite his illness, Baldwin was a brilliant strategist and a fearless leader. He refused to let his condition define him, and he was determined to protect his kingdom at all costs. When Baldwin learned of Saladin's advance, he gathered every available soldier. His army was small, only about 500 knights and a few thousand foot soldiers. Among them were the Knights Templar, the elite warrior monks who had sworn to defend the Holy Land. The Templars were the backbone of the Crusader army, known for their discipline, bravery, and unwavering faith. Baldwin and his forces set out to intercept Saladin near the fortress of Montgisard, close to the town of Ramla. The terrain was harsh, a dry, rocky desert with little cover. The Crusaders were exhausted, and their numbers were dwarfed by Saladin's massive army. But Baldwin and the Templars had one advantage: the element of surprise. On November 25, 1177, the two armies met. Saladin, confident in his overwhelming numbers, did not expect the Crusaders to attack. He had spread his forces thin, believing that the Crusaders would retreat or surrender. But Baldwin had other plans. He ordered a full assault, charging straight into the heart of Saladin's army. The battle was fierce and chaotic. The Templars, led by their Grand Master Odo de Saint-Amand, fought with unmatched ferocity. They were a blur of white and red, their mantles stained with dust and blood as they cut through the enemy ranks. Baldwin, despite his illness, rode at the front of the charge. His presence inspired his men, and they fought with a courage that seemed almost supernatural. Saladin's army, caught off guard and unprepared for such a bold attack, began to falter. The Sultan himself narrowly escaped, fleeing on a swift camel as his forces scattered in disarray. By the end of the day, the Crusaders had achieved a stunning victory. Thousands of Saladin's soldiers lay dead, and the rest had fled in panic. The Battle of Montgisard was a turning point in the Crusades. It proved that even against impossible odds, faith and courage could prevail. For the Knights Templar, it was a moment of glory. They had fought with unmatched bravery, and their reputation as the fiercest warriors in the Holy Land was cemented. The aftermath, a legacy of courage. The victory at Montgisard was a miracle, but it came at a cost. Many Templars had fallen in the battle, their bodies laid to rest on the battlefield. King Baldwin's health continued to deteriorate, and the Crusader states remained fragile. Yet for a brief moment, the light of hope shone brightly. The Battle of Montgisard became a symbol of divine intervention. Many believed that God had fought alongside the Crusaders that day, granting them victory against all odds. The story of Baldwin and the Templars spread far and wide, inspiring countless tales of bravery and faith. For Saladin, the defeat was a humbling experience. He would go on to achieve many victories in the years to come. But the memory of Montgisard stayed with him. He would later say of Baldwin, "This young king, though afflicted with leprosy, is a true warrior and a man of great courage."